Picture the lounge bar of a 1970s British pub. Flock wallpaper the colour of claret, horse brasses winking beside the fire, a blue haze of embassy smoke, and a bottle of Mateus Rose sweating in a plastic ice bucket. This was the golden age of the pub meal, when your dinner arrived in a wicker basket and pudding came frozen inside a Swiss roll. We are counting down 25 lost British pub meals from the 1970s that nobody orders anymore. Dishes that once ruled every saloon bar, carvery and Burney Inn, but have quietly slipped off the menu forever. Expect prawns drowned in pink sauce, chicken you ate with your fingers, and gâteau, thick with kirsch. Let's begin the countdown with number 25. Number 25. Brown Windsor soup was the murky brown starter that greeted diners in 1,000 pub dining rooms before the meal had properly begun. Ladled from a battered tureen into thick white bowls, it was a thin, savoury broth of stewed beef and root vegetables, darkened with gravy browning and stretched with pearl barley. In 1972, a bowl cost around 10 pence, served with a folded paper napkin and a bread roll wrapped in cellophane. Representatives and travelling salesmen ordered it out of habit, spooning it down between pints of mild while the jukebox played. For all its grandeur of name, it tasted faintly of Bisto and boredom, the sort of thing you finished only because it came with the set menu. As continental soups crept in, the lobster bisques and the French onions, Brown Windsor began to seem embarrassingly old-fashioned. By the 1980s, it had all but vanished, remembered now only as the joke soup of a duller Britain. Number 24. The pickle jar on the bar was less a meal than a ritual, but no 1970s pub was complete without it. Rows of vinegar-fogged jars lined the counter, holding roll mops, pickled onions the size of golf balls, saveloys, and cockles pale as pebbles. For a few new pence, the landlord would spear you one with a cocktail stick, or the shellfish man would call round of a Sunday with his tray of whelks and winkles and a pin to pick them out. The sharp, eye-watering tang cut clean through a session of keg bitter. Working men ate them standing up, elbows on the bar, arguing about the football. These were flavours of thrift and salt, of a Britain that snacked on the sea and the vinegar bottle. As crisps and dry roasted peanuts took over the bar snack trade, the great pickle jars grew dusty and slowly disappeared. Number 23. The melon boat announced that you were dining somewhere really rather sophisticated. A wedge of honeydew, cool and faintly sweet, arrived balanced on a small plate, crowned with a single glace cherry impaled on a stick, sometimes dusted with powdered ginger. In posher establishments, it came as a whole half melon, the flesh scored into cubes so the spoon slid through easily. A melon boat cost around 30 pence in 1975 and felt like an event. Couples on an anniversary night out ordered it to start, the wife dabbing at her lipstick, the husband loosening his kipper tie. It was fruit dressed up as a first course, a little theatre of refinement in the age of baby sham. When avocados and proper starters arrived, the melon boat came to seem thin and slightly silly, and it quietly sailed off the menu for good. Number 22. Whitebait was the pub starter that asked you to eat the fish. Whole, heads, tails, eyes and all. Dozens of the tiny silverfish were tossed in seasoned flour, deep-fried until crisp and golden, and heaped onto a plate with a wedge of lemon and thin brown bread and butter. Crunchy, salty, and faintly of the sea, they cost about 40 pence a portion, and were the mark of a pub that fancied itself a proper eating house. Diners squeezed the lemon, showered them with pepper, and ate them in fistfuls between sips of Blue Nun. There was something bracing about crunching through a whole fish without a thought. As tastes turned squeamish and fresh whitebait grew harder to source cheaply, the dish drifted away from pub blackboards. Today it survives only in a few seaside inns, a crisp little ghost of bolder appetites. Number 21. Deviled kidneys on toast carried the faint whiff of the gentleman's club into the ordinary saloon bar. Lamb's kidneys were trimmed, halved, and tossed in a fierce sauce of mustard, Worcestershire, and cayenne, then piled steaming onto a thick slice of fried bread. The heat hit the back of the throat, rich and peppery and unmistakably of offal. Ordered as a savoury supper or a hearty starter, it cost around 45 pence in 1974 and was beloved by older men who remembered it from breakfast tables before the war. The smell of mustard and searing kidney drifted through the bar, dividing the room as sharply as any dish. Younger drinkers turned up their noses at the very idea of eating kidney. As offal fell from fashion and hearts turned to scampi, the deviled kidney slipped quietly off the menu, remembered fondly only by those who once relished its fire. Number 20. Chicken liver. Pate with toast was the starter that seemed to appear on every single pub menu of the decade. A smooth, dense wedge of pate arrived on a lettuce leaf, topped with a curl of butter and a slick of aspic, flanked by triangles of Melba toast that shattered at the first bite. It cost around 35 pence and lent any meal an instant air of Continental class. Couples spread it thick, the pate rich with brandy and a whisper of garlic, and felt themselves briefly Parisian in a pub off the Ring Road. Every kitchen had its own version, some coarse, some silky, all of it made in a big terrain out the back on a Monday. It was the taste of aspiration, of a nation reaching for sophistication, one triangle of toast at a time. Supermarket tubs eventually killed it, and the homemade pub pâté faded away. Number 19, liver, bacon, and onions was honest, cheap, and unfashionable long before it disappeared. Slices of lamb's liver were fried fast in a hot pan, smothered in soft caramelized onions and crisp rashers, then served with a mound of buttery mash and a lake of thick gravy. At around 60 pence for a full plate in 1976, it was the frugal man's main course, ordered by pensioners and shift workers who valued the iron and the filling weight of it. The strong metallic smell drifted from the kitchen and clung to the flock wallpaper. Cooked a minute too long, the liver turned to leather, and the whole reputation of the dish suffered for it. As pubs chased the basket meal trade, and younger diners recoiled from offal, liver and bacon slid from the specials board. Today it lingers only in a few old-fashioned kitchens, and the memories of those who never minded a bit of liver. Number 18, faggots and mushy peas anchored the pub tables of the Midlands and the industrial North with unapologetic thrift. These were dense meatballs of minced pig's liver and offal, bound with breadcrumbs and sage, wrapped in caul fat and baked until dark, then drowned in a rich onion gravy beside a spoonful of vivid green mushy peas. A plate cost around 55 pence and filled a working man to the brim. In the Black Country you could smell them 3 tables away, savoury and herbal and deeply of the pig. Frozen brands soon put a version in every corner shop freezer, but the pub-made faggot, fatty and proper, was something else entirely. Children eyed them with suspicion, while their fathers ate with relish. As offal fell out of favour and the freezer versions cheapened the name, the true pub faggot faded away, remembered now only in a handful of stubbornly traditional houses. Number 17. The ploughman's lunch was sold as ancient rustic tradition, though in truth it was largely dreamed up as marketing in this very era. A hunk of crusty bread, a wedge of cheddar, a dollop of Branston pickle, a few pickled onions, and perhaps a tomato, and a curl of butter arrived on a wooden board, and the whole thing felt like England itself. Promoted heavily by the Cheese Bureau through the 1960s and 1970s, It cost around 40 pence and let a pub serve food without troubling the kitchen at all. Lunchtime drinkers loved it, cutting the cheese with a stubby knife and washing it down with a pint of real ale, for Camera was newly founded and the old beers were fighting back. It felt timeless, though it was nothing of the sort. Cheaper baguettes and paninis slowly crowded it out, and the proper wooden board ploughmans grew scarce. Number 16, steak and kidney pudding was the heavy heart of the winter pub menu, a dish that demanded hours and rewarded patience. Chunks of beef and kidney were sealed inside a suet crust, steamed until the pastry turned glossy and the filling ran dark with gravy, then turned out onto the plate to split open in a cloud of savory steam. At around 65 pence, it was the choice for a cold night, ordered by men who wanted ballast against the weather. The kidneys lent it a deep, awfully richness that the plainer pie could never match, and regulars claimed a good PUD was the true test of a pub kitchen. Yet steaming took time that busy houses no longer wished to spend. As frozen pies and quicker plates took hold, the steamed pudding basin was packed away. Today it survives in a few proud pubs, but the everyday version has all but vanished. Number 15, gammon steak with pineapple was perhaps the most photographed plate of the decade, and for good reason. A thick, salty gammon steak was grilled until the edges caught, then crowned with a glistening ring of tinned pineapple and served with chips, peas, and often a fried egg wobbling on top. It cost around 70 pence in 1975 and seemed the height of Friday night glamour. The sweet fruit against the salty ham felt daring and modern, a little burst of the tropics in a rainy market town. Families ordered it as a treat, children delighted by the novelty of fruit on a dinner plate. For a decade, it was inescapable, the default choice on every laminated menu in the land. As tastes moved on and the combination came to seem dated and faintly comic, the pineapple ring quietly retired, and with it went one of the great symbols of 1970s dining. Number 14, ham, egg, and chips was the plain, dependable backbone of pub eating, ordered when nothing fancier appealed. A couple of slices of thick boiled ham, 1 or 2 fried eggs with lace-crisp edges, and a generous heap of chips arrived with a slice of white bread and butter on the side. At around 50 pence, it was the cheapest hot meal in the house, beloved by lorry drivers, day trippers, and anyone counting their pennies. There was no pretension to it whatsoever, just salt, yolk, and starch, and it never once disappointed. The runny yolk was for mopping with the chips, the bread for wiping the plate clean. It asked nothing of the kitchen and nothing of the diner but a healthy appetite. As gastropubs arrived with their reductions and their rocket, this humble plate came to seem too basic to charge for, and it quietly slipped from the menus of ambitious houses. Number 13, the mixed grill was a monument to appetite, a plate so laden it barely held together. A lamb chop, a sausage, a rasher or two of bacon, a lamb's kidney, a fried egg, a grilled tomato, a flat mushroom, and a fistful of chips all jostled for room, the whole thing costing around £1 in 1977 and feeding a man for the day. It was ordered by hungry builders and by fathers treating themselves after a hard week, a small competition to see who could clear the plate. The smell of everything grilling at once filled the kitchen and drifted through the bar. There was a magnificence to its excess, a two-fisted celebration of meat in every form. As portions shrank and health worries grew, the great groaning mixed grill came to seem faintly obscene. It survives in a few cafes and old-fashioned pubs, but its heyday is long gone. Number 12. Steak Diane brought the theatre of the flambé to the pub dining room, and diners could not get enough of the spectacle. A thin steak was fried at the table on a little trolley, then flooded with brandy and set dramatically alight, the flames leaping while the room gasped and the waiter looked pleased with himself. Cream, mustard and Worcestershire finished the sauce, and the whole performance cost around £1.50. A real splash-out. Couples celebrating an engagement watched wide-eyed as the fire flared, a moment of glamour in a saloon bar off the bypass. It was food as entertainment, a slice of the swinging restaurant delivered to the provinces. Yet the tableside trolley demanded staff and skill that pubs steadily shed. As kitchens simplified and health and safety frowned upon the naked flame, Steak Diane and its fiery cousins vanished, taking a little glamour with them. Number 11, Duck à l'orange was the pub's brave stab at proper French cooking, and for a while it felt impossibly grand. A roast duck leg or breast arrived glazed in a sweet, sticky orange sauce, garnished with a twist of peel and served with dauphinoise potatoes if the chef was showing off. At around £1.30, it sat at the smart end of the menu, ordered by those marking a special occasion with a bottle of Liebfrau milk. The rich, fatty duck against the sharp sweetness of the sauce felt exotic and worldly to a nation raised on roast beef. For a time, no aspiring pub restaurant was complete without it. Yet the dish was fiddly, and cheaper cuts made it greasy in careless hands. As nouvelle cuisine arrived and mocked such heavy old classics, Duck à l'orange came to seem a museum piece, and it slowly disappeared from British menus. Number 10. Coq-au-vin marked the moment the bistro crept into the British boozer. Chicken pieces were braised slowly in red wine with mushrooms, baby onions, and lardons of bacon until the meat fell from the bone and the sauce turned deep and glossy. Served with rice or crusty bread, it cost around £1.20 and let a pub call itself Continental without straying too far from a stew. Couples ordered it to feel sophisticated, the very French name rolling awkwardly off English tongues. In truth, it was comfort food dressed in a beret, hearty and warming, and not so different from the casseroles their mothers made. For a while it graced every ambitious blackboard in the land. Yet as genuine French restaurants multiplied and diners grew more discerning, the pub version came to seem a pale imitation, and coq au vin quietly returned to the cookbook shelf. Number 9. Lasagna al forno arrived as the daring foreign newcomer that seemed to promise a whole new world of eating. Layers of pasta, rich meat ragu, and creamy bechamel were baked until the top bubbled and browned, then cut into a wobbling square and served with a limp side salad and garlic bread. At around £1 in 1978, it felt genuinely adventurous, the kind of thing you tried on holiday and then sought out proudly back home. Younger diners embraced it as modern and exciting, a break from the endless chops and pies. For a time, it was the height of cosmopolitan pub dining, proof that Britain was finally looking beyond its own borders. Yet as Italian food became commonplace and every supermarket stocked a chilled version, the pub lasagna lost its glamour entirely. It lingers on menus still, but as a tired default rather than the thrilling novelty it once was. Number 8. Chicken Kiev was the dish that ambushed you, and everybody remembered their first. A breaded chicken breast, crisp and golden, was cut into on the plate only for a jet of garlic butter to spurt out, often onto an unsuspecting shirt. Served with chips or rice, it cost around £1 in the late 1970s and felt impossibly glamorous. An exotic surprise from somewhere far to the east. Diners ordered it to impress, then laughed as the butter escaped across the tablecloth. For a golden few years, it was the smart choice on any pub menu, a little edible drama in every serving. Then the supermarkets got hold of it, and the Kiev became the cheapest ready meal in the freezer aisle. Its magic drained away entirely. What was once a restaurant treat became a Tuesday night default, and the proud pub Kiev, freshly crumbed and generous with garlic, simply disappeared. Number 7. Beef Wellington was the pub carvery's shot at true grandeur, a dish that announced serious ambition in the kitchen. A fillet of beef was spread with pâte and mushroom duxelles, wrapped snugly in golden puff pastry, and baked until the crust shattered to reveal pink meat within. It was the sort of thing you found at a Burney Inn on a birthday, and it cost around £2, a princely sum for the era. Couples in their best clothes ordered it to mark an occasion, the waiter carving it with a flourish. It felt like the pinnacle of dining out, a plate that justified the whole expensive evening. Yet the Wellington was demanding and expensive to make well, and careless kitchens turned out soggy, grey disappointments. As the steakhouse chains declined and fashions changed, the pub Wellington retreated to a handful of special occasions, and the everyday grandeur it once offered quietly faded. Number 6. The Arctic roll was the pudding that seemed to defy the very laws of nature. A cylinder of vanilla ice cream was wrapped in a thin sheet of sponge and a slick of raspberry jam, sliced into cool, striped rounds, and served straight from the freezer, sometimes with a splash of ice magic. It cost around 20 pence a slice, and delighted children and adults alike with the strange marvel of cold ice cream inside soft cake. Bird's Eye sold it by the mile, and no pub sweet trolley was complete without one sweating gently under the lights. There was a genuine wonder to that first bite. Sponge and jam and frozen cream all at once. Yet as fancier desserts arrived and the Arctic roll came to seem cheap and childish, it slid from the trolley. It survives now mostly as a nostalgic novelty, a frozen relic of simpler puddings. Number 5. Sherry. Trifle crowned the pudding trolley with layers of pure indulgence. Sponge fingers soaked in sherry sat beneath a wobbling raft of fruit and jelly, a thick blanket of custard, a cloud of whipped or squirty cream, and a scattering of glaced cherries, flaked almonds, and hundreds and thousands. Scooped into a glass dish for around 25 pence, it was the grand finale of countless Sunday lunches and celebration dinners. The sherry gave it a grown-up warmth that made children feel they were getting away with something. Every pub kitchen made its own, some boozier than others, ladled generously from a huge cut-glass bowl. It was a pudding of pure, unguarded joy, sweet and soft and boozy all at once. As lighter desserts and continental tarts took over the trolley, the towering pub trifle grew rare, and that great glass bowl of layered indulgence quietly disappeared. Number 4. Black Forest Gateau reigned as the undisputed queen of the 1970s dessert trolley, and no pudding was more coveted. Dark chocolate sponge was layered with cherries, kirsch, and thick whipped cream. The whole thing wreathed in chocolate curls and topped with more glistening cherries. A slice cost around 30 pence and felt like the last word in sophistication, wheeled to your table on a squeaky trolley for you to point at greedily. Couples shared a slice with 2 forks and a bottle of sweet German wine, convinced they were dining in real style. Rich, boozy, and impossibly grand, it was the pudding everyone secretly wanted. For a decade, it was the height of glamour on every menu in Britain. Yet as tastes turned, and the gateau came to symbolize everything naff about the era, it fell spectacularly out of fashion, and the great chocolate and cherry crown all but vanished. Number 3. The prawn cocktail was the starter that defined an entire decade of British dining. Cold prawns nestled in a bed of shredded iceberg lettuce, drenched in a pink Marie Rose sauce of mayonnaise, ketchup, and a whisper of Worcestershire, served in a stemmed glass with a dusting of paprika and a lemon wedge on the rim. It cost around 35 pence and appeared at the start of nearly every celebration meal of the 1970s. Diners felt genuinely sophisticated spooning it up, the sweet prawns and tangy sauce a little luxury against the brown bread and butter. It was the height of chics, the smart way to begin a night out. For years, it was inescapable, the very badge of eating well. Yet fashion is cruel, and the prawn cocktail came to seem the ultimate cliché of a naff era. It faded from menus, remembered now with a knowing, affectionate smile. Number 2, scampi in a basket was the meal that put the wicker basket at the heart of British pub culture. Golden breaded scampi, crisp on the outside and tender within, arrived heaped in a little straw basket lined with paper, a pile of chips beside them, and a pot of tartar sauce and a lemon wedge for company. At around 55 pence, it was affordable glamour, the choice of couples and families out for an informal treat. There was something irresistibly modern about eating from a basket rather than a plate, casual and fun, and utterly of its moment. Every pub in the land offered it, and for a while it seemed scampi would rule forever. Yet cheap, watery imitations made from reformed fish scraps cheapened the name, and as tastes moved on, the basket came to seem a joke. Today, the phrase alone conjures the entire decade, though the dish itself has quietly vanished. And finally, in first place, chicken in a basket stood as the ultimate symbol of 1970s pub dining, the dish above all others that defined the era. Half a roast or fried chicken arrived nestled in a wicker basket with a heap of chips and perhaps a token slice of tomato, and you ate it with your fingers, licking them clean between sips of lager and lime. Popularized in pubs and cabaret clubs through the late 1960s and into the 70s, it cost around 70 pence and felt like the last word in relaxed, modern fun. It turned dinner into an event, informal and cheeky, a plate you attacked with both hands while a crooner sang on a little stage in the corner. For a decade it was everywhere, the very sound of a good night out. Yet as knife and fork dining reasserted itself, and the baskets came to seem cheap and dated, it slipped away almost overnight. Today, chicken in a basket survives only in memory, and the occasional themed revival, a wicker relic of the warmest, gaudiest decade British pubs ever knew. From the murky brown Windsor soup that opened our list to the finger-licking chicken in a basket at the very top, these 25 lost pub meals tell the story of a Britain that dined with real gusto and a little glorious naffness. Which of these did your local still serve? And which one would you bring back tomorrow? Let me know in the comments, and raise a glass to the golden, gaudy age of the great British pub.